I've written a letter to Daddy saying I...
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Aurora, Mickey, and from me. I really should mention Mickey first because she is number one in the hierarchy of dogdom. And with dogs, you should be hierarchical because they are. However, today is a very serious subject, in some respects very sad, and I don't know how much levity we will be able to introduce to the subject, but let us see how we get along. I'm going to read out something that was published, which is on today's topic. It says, Markle was spotted on Thursday laying a bouquet of white roses at a makeshift memorial outside the Uvalde County Courthouse, not far from the scene of the senseless slayings at Robb Elementary School. As well, she also stopped by a Uvalde community center that is hosting a blood drive, where she toured the facility and donated food, a volunteer told the Daily Mail. How did they find out? They weren't following her. Tipped off. But we get to that in a minute. She did not want anybody to know who she was, the person said, and presumably was dumb enough to believe it. The Duchess took the trip in a personal capacity as a mother. Oh dear, isn't she wonderful? She interferes with government business as a mother. She takes trips across the continent as a mother. Is there no position or role that this woman won't milk when she wishes to pose and to achieve recognition and the attention that she has such a lust for? Anyway, to continue, the Duchess took the trip in a personal capacity as a mother. Then she had no right taking the trip, may I observe, to offer her condolences and support in person to a community experiencing unimaginable grief, her spokesperson told People, here we go again. Mickey, I think Aurora might have just done a poo here. Do you think you can get People magazine or the lavatory paper? Either one will do. They're equally useful for this purpose and they serve no other. In another stop on her tour of mercy. Mercy, merciful Father, help me. These people don't even know the English language. They think that opportunism and mercy are the same thing. In another stop on her tour of mercy, Markle also swung by a community centre hosting a blood drive in Uvalde and dropped off bags of food, according to BuzzFeed News. My dear, isn't it wonderful how everybody ends up getting information about Megsy Baby? Isn't it just wonderful? And Megsy Baby is incognito. And nobody knows that she's there. Just her photographer and her bodyguard and everybody else who she makes sure knows she's there. Anyway, the hypocrisy, the mendacity, the total fraudulence of it all is enough to make the stomach turn. The quiet donation, the account continues, the quiet donation. Well, I think, sweetie pie, you don't know the difference between tiny and quiet. Tiny is, it may have cost $50, and they're worth, according to them, not that I believe a word of it, several $100 million. Quiet donation. When you do a quiet donation, nobody knows about it. Take it from me, I know what I'm talking about. I have been raising money for charity for the last 48 years. When you want to be quiet and do a quiet donation, nobody knows about it. Anyway, the quiet donation consisted of 2 large bags filled with sandwiches, beverages and desserts for blood donors, the outlet said. So, however many tens of thousands of dollars she spent on the private plane or Netflix, because presumably this is for content, and she and Netflix would have cooked up the idea that she needs a photo op, and so this is going to be a photo op. I mean, if Netflix did, they are really truly debased, because really, to take advantage of the grief of people and of a tragedy is just sickening. However, they cooked it up and they made sure that they have served up this disgusting, odoriferous meal for the public to consume. Well, the public, I have to tell you, have shown their distaste and disgust. And I am going to read out some of the comments that I have received from the public. Disparate comments from all over the world, which show how completely this has backfired. Carolyn Bertram says, the hideous Meghan Markle has rolled up to place flowers in condolence for the children in Texas with cameras and security. Yet her ill father gets nothing. Personally, I am stunned by this behaviour and would love your thoughts. Carolyn Bertram, my thoughts are that Meghan Markle is the lowest of the low. Her conduct leads me to believe that she is not only tone deaf, insensitive, insincere, and unfeeling, or let me put it this way, lacking in empathy to the point of cruelty. She is incapable of reading the average human being and the response that decent people will have to her antics. I think this is one of the most debased things that I have ever witnessed a public figure doing. Now, unlike most of you, I speak as someone who has experience of losing a loved one to murder. In fact, I've lost more than one loved one to murder. But the first one that I lost was when I was 13, my grandfather. I know what the families of those 19 children and those 2 adults, now 3 adults, because remember, the wonderful school teacher who shielded the children and was killed, her husband has died of grief. So their 4 children are now orphans. So it's 19 children and 3 adults so far whose lives have been devastated, actually ended. Not to mention all the children who witnessed it and will be traumatized for the rest of their lives. Because I'm here to tell you, when you see something like that, I mean, I saw my grandfather's brains on the floor when I was 13 years old. You never get over something like that. You never, ever get over it. You may go beyond it, but you don't get over it. You are affected and hopefully can turn it into a positive with the passage of time. But It is awful. It's one of the worst things that can happen to anybody, and it's happened to all those people. And the ones who survive their lives are blighted to some degree for the rest of their lives. Into this sails that frowsy, reprehensible, tactless poser, not even properly dressed, in jeans and a t-shirt and a pseudo baseball cap, as if she is going to grab a hamburger at the local hamburger joint. She doesn't even bother to dress with dignity. She doesn't even bother to dignify the people she is supposedly paying her respects to. Why is she paying her respects to them? Who is she? Who is she? What part does she play in this? What valid part does anybody, any stranger who has no connection to the families, what right does a private citizen have to mosey in to a situation of this enormity? None. She's not a head of state. She's not an elected official. She has no status whatsoever, and therefore no right to have done it. None whatsoever. I can't believe that anybody could be so grossly insensitive and so grossly self-promoting. And if Netflix thinks that this is the way for them to have a winning formula, Mickey, grab the rest of People magazine. Let's turn to the Netflix page and we'll use that to wipe up the puppy's poo, because that's really all they're fit for. It staggers the imagination. It is so beyond odious that it really doesn't warrant anything except repulsion. Yet she and they would have thought it was a good idea. I mean, no wonder Netflix is losing all of its subscribers. And it has to be said, it shows the level of taste that they have if in the first place they signed her up. And one thought that they had at least some good sense in having dumped her. But if this is a part of footage for content, you do not trade upon and intrude upon the grief of people in a genuine tragedy for financial gain and worldly advantage, otherwise known as Netflix content. It is repulsive. I hope that makes my position clear. Words beyond that fail me, but I can tell you, I feel far more strongly about this. I can just imagine how my family would have felt if a frowsy third-rate scrubber like Meghan Markle had had the unmitigated gall to mosey in on our grief and show her respects If she'd had any respects that she was going to show the families, she would have written them a private note. That's what she would have done. She wouldn't have made sure that yet again it's all about her and all about the attention she not only seeks and yearns, but is addicted to. It is a study in disgraceful and disgusting conduct. Danielle Allen says, let me get this. Meg flew to Texas, where all these children were killed, but did not drive 3 hours to visit her dad in the hospital. Is that true? Of course it's true. By now, I think we should be getting used to the fact that the Meghan Markle show is a tableau vivant. So it is a living play. It is a living picture. It is a living story. It is a combination of ancient Greek tragedy, Shakespearean drama, French 18th century farce, and latter-day technological techniques. Had there been no cameras, had there been no necessity for content, had there been no payoff in the form of publicity, would she have done it? You can bet your sweet bottom dollar she would never have bestirred herself. This is one cheap and vulgar hustler, and I hope I am making my contempt clear, who will stoop to any level for attention, with no regard for the seemliness or lack of it of her conduct. Why didn't she visit her father? Why hasn't she visited her father? Why won't she visit her father? Well, I tell you my theory, if I haven't said it before, which I think I have. She dare not have her husband and her father meet, because she is terrified that if they do, the whole marriage will come crackling down like a hyena's laugh. Let's put it that way. I think she is terrified that all the alternative versions of reality that she has spun to Harry, for Harry to have admired her, will be revealed as the variable remembrances that they really were. And she, I think, fears that she will lose his regard and love, because she has positioned herself with him by leading him to believe that she was this deprived, disadvantaged victim of a depraved situation. And that she has valiantly and nobly conquered, because she's a woman of substance and character, when in fact all she is a heartless hussy who has used the wiles that women have been using since the beginning of time, when they couldn't be bothered to use their character their heart, their head, or their initiative. Let us wait and see if she visits her father. I hold out no hope for her doing so. I would like her to do it for him. I also know that if she visits her father, the likelihood is I will never have another conversation with him. And I would be willing to pay that price. I would be willing to draw a veil over all that I know, as long as her father can rest peacefully at night. I would be happy to do it. Somehow, I don't think that's a sacrifice I'm going to have to make. Roma Robbins says, "Hello, Lady C. I so enjoy your channel and praying Mr. Markle will make a speedy recovery. I have to say that I find it..." Oh, may I interject at this point and say, I would pray for that Mr. Markle makes as speedy a recovery as it is possible to make, rather than just a speedy recovery, because what I am hearing is that Thomas Markle's speech has been affected. This is not an indicator of speedy recovery, but hopefully I gather from Thomas Jr. that he's making good progress, and hopefully his progress will continue to be good. But I don't think we want to pile on unrealistic expectations on ourselves or upon poor Thomas Markle Sr. So, to continue, I have to say that I find it vile and ghoulish for hypocrite Harry's wife to fly all the way to Texas to get some press by cutting flowers at the memorial for the victims of the Texas school shooting. It's especially sad that she can fly halfway across the country for publicity, but can't visit her father in a hospital not that far away from her home. And I thought trampling over the grass of veterans for a photo op was disgusting, but using dead children is far worse. Let me say at this point that today I'm going to be reading out a series of observations or questions from you, the viewer, because our viewers are absolutely wonderful. They come up with the most marvelous comments, observations, questions, information. And since this is chatting with me, this is a way of having you chat, and your contribution is acknowledged. So today I'm doing it like that, where in fact I will be giving a voice, and I would imagine one could say equal weight to the input and simply turning it around. Well, yes, it is vile that any human being can avoid going to see her father 3 hours away and taking the trip, knowing that the one thing her father would like is to have a reconciliation with her and to meet the children. That's all. Thomas Markle will embrace her, and he will pretty much accept her on any terms and forgive anything. I saw it with my grandmother and my mother. I'd been down this route before, so I see what's going on. And a parent who loves a child will forgive the child. The prodigal is embraced, irrespective of the prodigal's former prodigality. That is the nature of the parent-child relationship and of love and of humanity. Not everybody abides by it, but Thomas Markle is a particularly loving man. I know this from many different sources and many different people, some of whom I respect very greatly, one of whom has an impeccable background and knew him in a professional capacity. So, I'm not saying this off instinct. I'm saying this off not only my personal observations, but the observations of people, some of whom have known Thomas Markle for 30-something years. Meghan has moseyed in and imposed herself, you could say inflicted herself, upon a community. She hasn't expressed grief or condolences or sympathy, insofar as I'm aware, to any of the specific people who have lost. She's done it to the community. A community, she's always on and on about community and compassion and all these vague terms that mean absolutely nothing whatsoever. So she goes for her photo op halfway across a continent. Whether she paid for the private jet or Netflix paid for it is a moot point, but somebody paid for it. Could they have given those tens of thousands of dollars to the people as some form of sympathy endowment? Could they have offered to build a community centre, to build a science lab, to build a yoga classroom, anything at the school? No, because it's not about the community. It's not about the people who've lost. It's about merching. It's about promoting themselves. It's about promoting their product. It's about promoting Meghan. My understanding is that part of Meghan's justification, which is, I have to tell you, an outrageous enormity and abuse of the facts, part of her justification has been that Catherine Cambridge, at the Sarah Everard vigil, which took place at Clapham Common, this was a huge thing in Britain because Sarah Everard was a young lady who was walking home, cutting across Clapham Common, which is in a very good area in London, and she was accosted by a Metropolitan Police officer called Wayne Cousins, who arrested her for being in breach of COVID-19 regulations. He drove her to Dover in his car, where he ravished her, and being careful what words I use because this is YouTube. Then throttled her into eternal life, incinerated the remnants, and disposed of her in a nearby pond. The fact that it was a police officer caused a huge problem for women in this country. Everybody in the country was concerned about the potential damage to law and order and what faith women could place in the police, because it was a police officer who had done this, and there were concerns at all levels of society, amongst all complexions and classes within society, as to what should be done and would help to restore faith in the police, because women, quite justifiably, if you can't trust the police, who can you trust? And the decision was taken partly because the Duchess of Cambridge does work for women and with women, and she was an advocate and sympathized with the predicament of women, and was the perfect person to embody womanhood in this country. And so this was a decision taken not only because she wanted to do it, which she did, but also my understanding is it was a decision that was not idly taken, and it was taken at the absolute highest level with soundings in all the relevant departments, that she would go and she would pay her respects, because it was a vigil where women, all women, were invited to come and pay their respects to Sarah Everard, and she went with her private detective. She did not have a camera crew trailing her. There was obviously the understanding that it might and maybe would and certainly ought to get out, which it did. There are no parallels between Meghan Markle and her ghoulish pitching up at Uvalde when she has no status. She's not a Texan. She doesn't have a child at the school. She's not a parent at the school. She is a woman, yes, but there are hundreds of millions of women. What made her think that she was the only one who was entitled, due to her sex, to be able to show up and push her way in when she had no status? She was representing no one. She doesn't have a position in the United States of America, nor does she have a position here any longer. She's not a working royal. She has no status whatsoever officially, either in this country or in the United States of America. She had no right to be there. She should not have been there. The Duchess of Cambridge had every right to be at the vigil and to show her solidarity. She was representing womanhood in this nation as its future queen and its future Princess of Wales. Who was Meghan Markle representing except her frowsy self? And Netflix. Since when was the grief, pain and anguish that only people who have lived through murder will understand truly? Does she have the right to muscle in? The whole thing stinks to high heaven. Jimbo says, it's not that she did it, it's that she did it with security, moving all the grieving people out of the way and having her security detail making room so the people who mattered the most could not grieve next to the temporary memorial. Nothing like the Catherine and Sarah Everard visit here in the UK. She crept in and out with one bodyguard and did not take attention away from the meaning of it, she being Catherine Cambridge. Now, she becomes Meghan Creature Markle. She even brought a few boxes of food again. Probably will state on the flicks that she broke bread with the people. Big chunky bracelet too. Wow, the crassness of it all. Rumour has it she tried to gain entry to the school as well. I wouldn't put it past her. This is a woman who would try to shove herself and gain entry into the opening of a filthy lavatory bowl if she felt it was in her interest to do so. I have sympathy for Mr. Markle as he brought up the one that has turned into Meghalaya. He needs to recover. At least his other kids are there for him. Yes, they are. And the pity is that she's not. And my hope is, of course, it's a futile hope, but my hope is that she will finally begin to realize that it is in her worldly interest to appear to reconcile with her father and reconcile with him enough to show up and show him some solidarity and to show her children to him. I don't think she's going to do it because I think she's told Harry too many variable versions that do not accord with the reality of her life. I said it in my book long before I ever had any personal interaction with Mr. Markle. Anyway, I mean, the whole thing is thoroughly depressing. And I feel for Mr. Markle, and I hope that he will get the outcome he wants, which is a rapprochement with his children. Because if Meghan would be just a little bit cleverer than she is and actually take advice, it's really easy for her to say to Harry, H, you know, notwithstanding all those lies Daddy's told about me and, you know, all those lies he's told about educating me when everybody knows that I was working as a waitress at the age of 6 months. And yes, Meg, you're the most wonderful woman that God put on this earth. And yes, Meg, you're a paradigm, and you're an exemplar, and you are just the most wonderful woman, Meg. You make all the great women of history pale into insignificance beside you. You're such a ballsy creature. And she continues sweetly, oh, well, H, you know, I've been thinking that, you know, why don't I just go and see Daddy, you know? I mean, let's be bigger than him. Let's be the big people here. let's forgive. You know, I know he's done the most awful things to me, as I've told you, and I mean, he's just been the most dreadful father, and just, it's all unforgivable, but you know, I mean, now that I've surpassed your mother and Mother Teresa, and I'm batting, actually, I'm on a dead heat with the Virgin Mary for true greatness in womanhood and perfection. I think, I should be classy like the Virgin Mary was. And I think I should go and see Daddy and take the kids. She could easily do it. And the fact that she doesn't do it says all that needs to be said about her arrogance, ignorance, and ultimate stupidity. Tulum Borden says, absolutely stomach-turning. Meghan capitalizing off the deaths of children for Netflix cameras is the absolute lowest of the low. I couldn't agree more. I put myself in the shoes of all those people, and I remember what it was like when my grandfather was murdered. And I remember how moved the family was that Sir Alexander Bustamante, the Prime Minister, who was on his way from church, heard the news on the radio and dropped in at the house. That was because he had status. He knew the family, he knew my grandfather. It wasn't an empty vessel making a lot of meaningless noise the way she has done. What she has done is the lowest of the low. You do not invade the grief of families in a situation like that. You have no idea the shock, the perplexity, the completely reeling from disbelief of what has happened. How numb you are on the one hand, how disbelieving on the other, how you know it's real and you're trying to come to terms with it being real, and it's horrendous into this maelstrom of genuine tragedy. If anybody had come to us posing to be wonderful and classy when it was obvious they were self-aggrandizing scrubbers working their way into the drama for their own benefit, we would have been appalled. Now, I'm not saying that down the line they might not be able to work on one or two of the people to get a positive comment about her. Anything is possible, but this should not have happened at all. EAD says, Dear Lady C, I'm sickened and outraged that Meghan Markle travelled to Texas in the midst of a city's grief simply to take advantage of a PR photo op. What a disgusting grab for attention and exploitation of a tragedy. This pathetic attempt to position herself on a par with a visiting US president certainly deserves all the contempt we can muster. It's beyond cynical. It's almost cruel in its insincerity, and her shallow gesture is an insult to all those families who have lost their precious ones. Out of all Meghan's atrocities, this one tops my list. I almost feel physically sick that anyone could be so self-serving in the midst of this heartbreak. I actually felt sick to my stomach actually, if you want to know the truth. And yes, in her deluded mind, she has status beyond that of a US president. She is the premier royal in the world. In her mind, in her sick, deluded mind, in my not so humble opinion. If she didn't have this delusion, she wouldn't have done it. You haven't seen Princess Madeleine of Sweden pitching up, have you? You haven't seen anyone else from a royal family pitching up in a situation like that. If they go for to represent the body they represent, not to represent their own body, which is what she has done. It is beyond outrageous. Karina Ricks says, "Dearest Lady C, I love your whuppies so much I have decided to get one and will be calling her Lady C." Thank you very much. I have to tell you, many years ago, a friend of mine had her two sons who called their donkey after me. I was very honored. I'm very honored again. Thank you so much. And I hope Lady C will bring you a lot of pleasure. I'm sure she will. I simply hope she's a lot less naughty than Aurora is proving to be. Aurora is the naughtiest puppy I have ever had. And she's about my 8th litter. I love her, but I can tell you something. She is naughty, naughty, naughty. I so look forward to my new baby girl who I will be getting in August. Give her lots of kisses from me. I want to add a nasty comment. Meghan Markle is the most repulsive woman on this planet. I honestly thought Amber Heard was, but no, I was wrong. Methane has pipped her to the post all right. Using the Texas tragedy as a PR stunt is repulsive beyond belief. Using those slain, tiny, innocent children who have perished in the most violent way is too terrible for words. The end of their little lives came in such a scary and horrific way for these little souls and the innocent little children that survived and witnessed it. I'm so sad for the families and community. As much as I adore Her Majesty, I will not be participating, celebrating or supporting the Jubilee at all. I will not even look at one image. I cannot, sadly. The first time in my life. Meghan Markle has certainly won. She has indeed brought the royal family to its knees as she planned to do. I cannot support a monarchy with Meghan Markle in it. It's just immoral to do so. This is a very sad day for me. The King Lear story is mild in comparison to this horror show. This is pure and unadulterated evil in big block capitals. I feel sick, disgusted beyond belief and feeling victimized myself as she has taken away something in this life I love and cherish. She has stolen that from me. Karina Ricks, I hear what you're saying. I feel your pain. I understand what you are about. I also beseech you to not let your pain get the better of your incisiveness and your judgment. You have been victimized by this display, as has everybody who views it with the repulsion that many of us do. Meghan Markle, however, is an American citizen. She has certain rights and liberties that neither the British nation, the British government, nor the American government can strip her of. She has the right to do what she did, legally, albeit not morally. The Queen can't stop her. There is no way the Queen is responsible for Meghan Markle's conduct. I have tried to explain this before. The Queen is the head of a nation that is civilized and has rules and rights and protects the rights of everybody, including people who we do not disagree, with whom we do not agree. Meghan Markle isn't even British. She's American. Unless she is committed to an insane asylum, she can't be stopped. Why would you ruin the Jubilee for yourself by allowing Meghan to ruin it for you, when the Queen has no power to stop Meghan? Meghan is a free person living in a free country. These are her inalienable rights. She has the right to be the really horrid person that she is. And she is indulging that right to the full. If we appreciate the limits that the Queen and any government quite rightly will have, because you don't want to be in a society where the powers that be can simply shut someone down. That is what they do in totalitarian states. We don't want them doing it here or in America. The Queen can't stop it. Don't think Meghan for 1 second consulted anybody at Buckingham Palace. The royal family has made it clear that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are no longer working members of the royal family. They cannot say that they are not members of the royal family, because by law and with right they are members of the royal family. The royal family has put as much distance between themselves and Meghan and Harry as they are able to do. Now, I agree with many people who think that Meghan and Harry shouldn't be participating at all at the Queen's Jubilee. I agree with that. But it is the Queen's Jubilee. She has given 70 years of her life as our monarch. She has been the most exemplary head of state. She is the most revered head of state on earth. People all over the world admire her. She has given her life to this country, to the Commonwealth, and indeed as an example to people all over the world. Why should we allow little Meghan Markle, who is basically an insignificant flea that's simply causing an itch, to ruin her good time or our good time? I think, try to look at it like that, and do get back to me with your thoughts. But I honestly think you should admire the fact that the Queen is not trying to shut Meghan down, but is giving her all the freedom she needs to show all of us what she is. And isn't she doing a fantastic job of it? D. Griffith says, this woman cannot get any lower. She can find time to go to Texas to get a photo opportunity, but not able to visit her own dad. She really is one despicable woman. I agree. I think she is despicable. I despise her. I completely look down on her. I think she is something that makes an amoeba look like an evolved form of life in terms of spirit. Let me put it that way. And can she get lower? I'm not going to hold my breath, my dear. I'm not suicidal. I wouldn't put anything past somebody who is so brazen, so brass-necked, so insensitive, so callous, and so delusional as to think that conduct like that would ever get an admirable response from any right-thinking person. David Jackson says, I'm not sure whom I dislike more, Meghan Markle or Amber Heard. Need help on this, Lady C? Well, yeah, I'll be delighted to help you out, David Jackson. In my opinion, Amber Heard has a redeeming feature that Meghan Markle doesn't have. I think they are both truly dreadful, but Amber Heard, being somebody who has histrionic personality disorder, actually suffers from it, as well as inflicting suffering on everybody because of it. What I see from Meghan Markle's conduct leads me to believe that the cocktail of personality traits that she displays in terms of narcissism, antisocial demeanor, and Machiavellianism, the only feeling she has is for herself when she's thwarted. I don't think that she is capable of any suffering whatsoever, except with frustration and rage when her objectives are thwarted or not realized. While Amber Heard, I think, does actually at times suffer. I think she suffers from abandonment issues. I think I wouldn't want to be near her. I wouldn't want her anywhere on my planet, really. But I think she has some feelings, human feelings. Meghan Markle, I don't think so. I've seen no evidence of it. I see evidence of a lot of posing, a lot of posturing, but no possession of genuine human feelings. Sandra Lang says, Dear Lady C, can you confirm if Meghan actually had her photographer with her in Uvalde? I am appalled that she would go there knowing she would insert herself into this horrific tragedy. She is truly warped. I would be the last person to disagree with you. But I'm going to get to the photographs in a minute. Diana Weimer says, I think the confirmation is that all the sources that reported the event are all using the same photo. If the photo came from major news entities, there would have been multiple angles photographed. She can't sell a photo if anyone else other than her photographer took the photo. I would say it is a 99% chance she brought a photographer with her. I think you're right. I think you're right, and yet again, as we know from the Archewell website, nobody who falls into the orbit of the Sussexes ever profits except them. So, if there was a photographer there, I would imagine that she has retained the rights to the picture. And it's interesting that only two or three pictures have been used, and that there is a sameness to the pictures, but we're getting to her being observed posing for the picture. So I'm not going to spoil that by saying more at this point. Carol Cox says, rather than visit her sick father, Meghan was seen placing flowers at the memorial in Texas for the school shooting. The report mentioned that she also brought her own camera person. Nothing like twisting tragedy into your own personal gain. How low can she go? Well, as low as is required to achieve her objective would be my take on that. P.A. McIntyre says, and here we come to it, Mr. McIntyre, or Miss McIntyre, or Mrs. McIntyre has come up with the solution, because, wait for it, the newest fail of hers, she can visit Texas to pay her respects, but no respect, no care for her poor father. It's disturbing to see how many fall for her PR stunts. I found this comment on Twitter. The quotation marks begin. You are 100% correct. Hal Espinosa was standing right there and watched her move around until the camera crew got the angle she wanted for the picture. She had to kneel down twice and wait until they got a clear photo with her head bowed. There we have it. Eyewitnesses seeing her, the poser posing, and then of course claiming, I was there incognito in a private capacity, and I didn't want anybody to know about this. Oh, shh. Quick, take the picture. No, I don't want to. No, not like that. You need to get me meaningful. I need to be sympathetic. I need to let the world know that I'm a wonderful person. Come on, no, not like that. No. Like this. Yes. I'm Maxie Baby. I've got a big heart. And a bigger ego. The whole thing stinks to high heaven. Sheila Cunningham says, Dear Lady C, if Meghan Markle recently could have arrived secretly at Windsor and avoid pictures along the way, how was she unable to do the same when just visiting the Texas memorial site for the shooting victims? Are you aware if Netflix took the photos of her feeble attempt to be incognito when bearing flowers to place at the memorial? It seems she was assured she would be noticed as she was accompanied by the particular bodyguard, now very recognizable, as he was just featured in the press with Harry riding on bikes. What a coincidence that Harry could be captured by a photographer on a simple bike ride, and then Meghan captured at the memorial site. Netflix has really amped up the need for photo ops, no? Whether it's Netflix or not, my dear, Meghan Markle is a publicity junkie. She is a fame addict. She is an attention-seeking junkie who will always do everything to be the center of attention and to be at the forefront of everybody else's awareness. As for Harry being photographed and then Meghan being photographed, isn't it extraordinary how they can go everywhere and be covert when it suits them. For instance, remember when they went to Canada, then when they went from Canada to America, then when they went from California to Miami, then when they went from California to Windsor the other day, they can always manage to be covert when it suits them. And then when they want attention, they're covertly overt or overtly covert, whichever way it is. The denialism, it's beater in your brain dealing with people like that. Patricia H. says, what about her taking a private plane to lay flowers at the site of the shooting massacre? I couldn't believe my eyes. What has it to do with her and her camera crew? Exploiting those poor people's grief for her own publicity. She has reached a new low. She should be stopped. She still hasn't visited her poor father. She can't be stopped, Patricia H. Unless she ends up in prison or the loony bin. Nobody can stop her. That's the price we pay to live in a free society. The nuisance value of nuisances. I think it's despicable, but more than that, we can't stop her. The Queen can't stop her. The American authorities can't stop her. Balls juggling in the air, since they obviously don't exist anywhere else, can't stop her. And Patricia Trichard says, why can't she stay with her father and Harry goes to his grandmother? Best case scenario. I couldn't agree more. That is the best case scenario. And I would hope, for Thomas Markle's sake, that she does that. But she's not going to do it. That attention-seeking hussy and hustler, there is no way she is going to avoid being centre stage at a global event. Remember how they're in love with the word global already? Global press secretary. Global pain. And of course, she's not going to go to her father because she doesn't have the wit or the self-confidence to pull it off. If she were really clever, if she were really self-confident, she would say, H, you know, I've been thinking, I've really got to, H, I've got to go and see Daddy. I'm going to write a letter to Daddy. Or better still, I'm just going to pop in with Daddy. I think I'm going to take the kids. Oh, Meg, how can you cope without me protecting you? I've got to protect you. It will be all right, H. You go to that old woman. Oh, sorry. Her Majesty's. Your grandmother. Because remember, H, unlike the rest of the royal family, I never refer to her as the Queen or Her Majesty. I always say, you're my husband's grandmother, because I've got to keep everything, the focus on me, me, and me again. Golden Autumn says, I don't believe people really appreciate the fact that stress can kill, as Thomas Markle simply wants what any parent and grandparent wants, and has punished himself enough because of the idiotic, cruel treatment from his daughter, even though she doesn't deserve him at all. I hope she can at least make it up with him before he dies and takes the children to meet him. She's obviously sadistic and stupid. I think she's stupid. I think she's got synapses sort of jumping around in her brain. So she has some brain power. She has some intelligence, but she has no insight. She has no emotion. She has no depth. So even if she has the ability to process information, on some level she is dead and dumb. So I think that accounts for what you regard as stupidity. I'm not so sure she's obviously sadistic, so much as so callous, so cold, so self-involved, so delusional, so arrogant, that she can't see beyond herself. And her very insensitivity creates a void that comes across as callousness and cruelty. But is she sadistic? Does she inflict pain for its own sake and for the pleasure of doing so? I would have said rather more that she is into power, and she likes wielding power. And one of the ways that she gets her jollies is to, in the act of wielding that power, have people subservient or at a disadvantage, or just subservient. Let's stick to subservient. That's not quite the same thing as classical sadism. It's getting there, but I don't think it's quite arrived at the destination yet. Christos Liakis says, Lady C, after her latest stunt in Uvalde, Texas, it really seems like Meghan is on a mission to destroy her own profile. With your intimate knowledge of narcissism, perhaps you could tell us whether we are witnessing some sort of natural selection related psychological mechanisms that enable and reinforce a narcissist's downward spiral at play. I have but scant knowledge in the field of psychology, but you are obviously well acquainted with it. Well, I certainly enjoy the study of the human condition. I'm not so sure that I would actually lay claim to great knowledge on the external subject of psychology, but I do think I know my human beings. And certainly I made a study of the subject of narcissism at a time that there was very little material available on it. It's now the hot topic. But when I wrote Daughter of Narcissus, it was not a hot topic, and indeed that's one of the reasons why Erica Freeman, who is one of the most eminent psychoanalysts on earth, suggested that I write the book. She felt I could make a valid contribution because of my personal knowledge of the subject and having survived being the daughter of a narcissist, that I had an invaluable contribution to make to the subject. And to an extent she must have been right, because I have received over the years so many letters from people who have read the book and who said it helped them and it helped to clarify things for them. So the book served its purpose. But so to the extent that I studied it, I have a level of expertise. But I would not have said that I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist, I'm not a psychoanalyst, and I'm not a psychiatrist. So I have lay knowledge of the subject, so to speak. Nevertheless, I feel I am equipped to answer the question, and I will answer it like this. Anybody who has a personality disorder has something seriously wrong with them. They are deficient in some areas. They are lacking. It's incurable. It is also destructive. As they go through life, because they refuse to accept that there is anything wrong with them, and they decide that something's wrong with everybody and everything but them, because they are the only perfect people on earth. They perfect their destructiveness. So, practice makes perfect, and the more practiced they become at exercising their disorder, covering up for their disorder, entrapping people because of their disorder, blaming everybody else for their failings, that is a result of the origin is their disorder. They perfect the destructiveness of their disorder. There is a reason why people say goodness is its own reward. If you're good, it enhances you and the people around you and the world and your life and life generally. If you're destructive, the opposite applies. Do I think that we are witnessing Meghan's downward spiral at play? Let me put it this way. 4 years ago, when Meghan entered the royal family and people got to know her, or the facade, and I freely admit I was duped. Not that I was that interested, but the little bit I saw, I didn't even think enough to really think about it. But I went along with everybody. I thought it was great because nice that he found himself somebody to love, nice that it was a woman of colour. I was very aware, being Jamaican, of the tremendous hopes that were vested in her being a success by people of colour all over the world. And I wished her well, and I thought it was wonderful, and I was just one of many. 4 years ago, when they got married, they were one of the most popular couples on earth, and she was heading to be one of the most popular women on earth. She and Harry, after their Australian trip, which totally went to their head, they thought they were so popular that they could, like a B-grade movie actress in the golden age of Hollywood, overthrow the studio and become a bigger star than the biggest star. This is what they thought. In the 4 years from that till now, and she is the architect of all that is happening, Make no mistake about it. He may be a willing conspirator, but she is the architect. She's in the driving seat. I know that from people who know them very well and people who know her very well. As her father put it, she's always been in control of all of her men and all of her relationships with men. She has targeted them, chosen them, and had them do exactly as she wanted for the duration of the relationship. So we are witnessing Meghan's failure, because her objective has been to be the most popular woman on earth, and she's heading to be one of the most unpopular. There is a difference between fame and infamy. She clearly didn't understand that if you are contemptuous of the world in which you are now functioning and its values, you're not going to flourish, you're going to fail. Or to put it another way, if you're a stinker who refuses to have a bath, and you put on a ball gown and go to a fabulous ball, you still stink no matter what you look like. And nobody wants to be around a stinker, literally or figuratively. I hope that answers the question. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions coming in. Remember, this cannot be done without you. God bless and goodbye.